ourselves. My name is Lucian. I started the leadership program 14 months ago, and I work for Yale Media and Health Systems, been there for 7 years. And I chose the HEAT Capstone project because I really wanted to give back to the community. I wanted to work with an organization that gave 100% back to a community. And HEAT does do that. And I also wanted to, as Chris mentioned about servant leadership, I really wanted to experience what servant leadership was. So that's why I chose this project. And I'm going to kind of hand it over right now to Gaya and have her introduce herself.
Hello everybody, and thank you so much for attending our Heat Up the Holidays party. If you are guests at our Heat Up the Holidays party. My name is Gaya Matzkin. I work as a human resources generalist at OF Matzkin & Sons. It's a firearms manufacturing company in North Haven, Connecticut. I would like to thank very much. It's been an honor working with you ladies on this project, and I think over time we came to share a lot of values, and we learned a lot about each other. I would like to share with the class before we officially begin talking about HEAT is that, with our guests, is that when we met a few months ago to talk about this project, what kind of a project we're going to discuss with our capstone, in addition to being able to apply leadership concepts we learned in this program, it really mattered to me that whatever project we work on, whatever organization we develop, whatever steps we take, truly benefit an organization, there's a nonprofit which is designed to helping those in need in their local community. It was very important factor for me. In addition, it really mattered to me is that whatever we work with this organization, whatever our capstone project is that it can continue, the organization can continue to benefit, it can continue to sustain itself even after the completion of our project, and it was a big factor for me. On that note, I would like to invite our next host, Maureen.
So, as they have said, welcome all to being here. Each of us really, we did at the very beginning of this, take a few moments, spend some time trying to think about what it was that we wanted to accomplish, what it was we wanted to do in doing a capstone in general. You know, I thought about having come into this program, and I came into the program because I wanted to learn how to be a leader, right? What I learned was that what you really needed to do was find these meaningful moments that you could, have some impact, have some influence, and that's where leadership would really come from. So whether it was that idea of making, research practical in everyday life, or whether it was the fact that, you make these decisions that seem easy and right, but they're really unfolding things to people about who you are, or when you don't make them, they're unfolding things to people about who you are. Or if you take a moment to be creative and take something that's innovative, you're going to impact the culture of your organization. Whether your creative attempt works or doesn't work, that everything we do is a piece of leadership. That leadership itself is a skill that's in us, and we have to develop and exercise it. You know what? That's okay if it goes away, because we were so moved by Chris's presentation that we are now working for AT&T. That is how moved we were, right?
Fools on you, this is AT&T's holiday party.
Oh my gosh, and our corsages just happened to be that color.
Sponsored by AT&T.
Sponsored by AT&T. Actually, we were partially sponsored by Mossberg, but we'll get into that. But in all seriousness, yeah. So we really don't have a PowerPoint-driven presentation for you. We really are here to talk to you about what we did and what we experienced and why we did it. So as I thought about the fact that what I really needed to do as a leader was to find opportunities to make meaningful impact and influence, I really wanted my capstone to be, yes, about impacting people, and yes, about making a difference. But I really wanted it to be able to be something that happened in my daily life, right? Something that I could apply practice to. And something that, once I had this degree, which I am trusting I'm going to get after today. We are getting a degree. Once we all get this degree, right, then I can continue to use it. So they really wanted to impact certain types of organizations. They want to work with that. And I work with an organization, I volunteer with an organization that I felt could fit that bill. But much like we learned from Dr. Bourgeois, you can't always see things when you're on the inside, right? You really have to change your lens, you have to take some different perspectives and different use. So these ladies, my colleagues, were really actually, I was so touched that they were willing to work with an organization I'm involved in. That organization is called HEAT. And HEAT is a grassroots program that operates in Old Saybrook, Connecticut. And what it does is it raises money to provide emergency heating assistance for individuals, town residents, that are in need. It does it by collects the money, the town social services sort of vets people who are in need and decides who can take benefit of that money. And any money that's raised goes to the Old Saybrook Community Foundation, which is a 501c3, so all that money gets to be tax deductible. And that also allows for there to be sort of some financial watch over what happens. It's not close to my heart. This program isn't important to me because it raises money and gives it out for heating assistance, right? I mean, I'm glad it raises money, I'm glad it gives it out for heating assistance. But it's close to my heart because it does it in a community that people consider to not have need, right? A community of affluence. Need doesn't exist in those types of communities. I grew up in one of those communities. And I grew up in a family that the reason we had our needs met were because of people in the community who gave to us. So I know firsthand that need exists. And I know firsthand those people who want to help exist. And it's a matter of putting those things together, and that's why I value HEAT, because it raises awareness about the issues that exist for people. And it takes that awareness and it gives it to individuals who can help and connects them with the individuals who need the help. And to me, that's intrinsically valuable, and I think it's valuable for the community. And it's done a pretty good job of doing it. In 3 years, in the first 3 years it existed, it raised $85,000. Now you all should have gone, ooh, come on, ooh, that's good, right? Here's what's I think more impressive though. In the first 3 years, it spent all $85,000. Now if you didn't catch it, Gaya mentioned, or Rocanne mentioned, that 100% of what he raises goes directly to individuals who need the assistance. Old Saybrook Community, he takes no money. He has no overhead, no expenditures. If it spends money on something, it's because someone donated it, right? It's because someone donated the item, not for spending the money. The foundation takes no money. The town services takes no money. So that's pretty good. But $85,000, if you think about what's happened to families, to seniors, with people's retirement accounts, their pension, jobs staying, jobs going, houses, house prices changing and all. In the 2009 to 2010 heating season, the average tank of gas, 250 of oil, 250 gallons, cost around $640. In the 2011-2012, $1,010. Now we've all been living that. Hopefully, and I wish for all of us, that we've also been surviving that. But there are families that have really been hit. So $85,000 sounds really great, but if we actually purchased a tank of oil for a family, that means over 3 years, 85 families got help. That's not like nothing, right? I mean, that's 85 that wouldn't have had it otherwise. But the truth is, last year alone, 135 families were eligible for heating assistance in Old Saybrook, according to, all of the state guidelines and federal guidelines. And part of what HEAT tries to address are the individuals who don't qualify for that. Because gosh darn it, you're just so close. You're just so close, you're hanging on by those fingertips. As we used the phrase at one point, these are individuals who choose between groceries and heat in a given week, right? So look, the need's there, it's valuable, you could use more money. But quite honestly, that's not a Capstone project. That's just good work, that's volunteering, that's that, right? Capstone project is something more, and Gaya hinted it when she talked about something that was sustainable. He has challenges, he has problems that if they don't get addressed, may cause it not to be around. And then that $85,000 becomes no money. Gottlieb, by the way, we're going to mention some of the individuals that we read. If anyone would like the references, we'll give them to you. But just to let you know that when you hear some names, that's where it's coming from. Gottlieb let us know that there's an issue in organizations, often grassroots organizations, called founder syndrome. And founder syndrome, what it basically means is that you have this usually charismatic individual who starts something really great. Imagine the founders of PAVE, if you will, right? It's their energy, it's their passion that takes something forward. when the founder leaves, if in fact there hasn't been structure to an organization, if there hasn't been distribution of roles and responsibilities of decision making, the organization really risks falling apart. And that's a real risk for HEAT, because although HEAT, like many grassroots organizations, operates primarily with a leader and maybe a couple of volunteers making the decisions, like other grassroots organizations, it also needs some structure. HEAT doesn't seem to have that. Gaya's going to talk about that in a few moments in terms of what we found as we looked at the organization. But HEAT has some really key partnerships. HEAT partners not only with the town and the foundation, HEAT partners with the volunteer fire department, who provides space for fundraisers. HEAT partners with Stop and Shop, who provides all of the food that's used for certain fundraising events. We partner with Harbor News. There's a lot of partnerships. They're very valuable. They've existed for 3 years, and they've been completely developed and maintained by this one leader. He goes, so goes, right? Or so the fear is. So really we wanted to look at that. But as I said, it's not just a leader, it's also the volunteers. In the 3 years that he has existed, it has primarily started off with a membership, lost a few people, and it's been stagnant since then. I joined towards the end of their first year, and I was the last person who joined. Unless, in fact, we really do get Rocky to buy us someplace, in which case she will become a member of HEAT. So we have to think about why people volunteer, why they stay, how you get them to stay, what their motivations are. And we read a lot of folks, particularly Dagley and Tony, Finkelstein, Penner, and Brennan, all spoke about the fact that while they give up their time freely, they're doing it for a reason. They may not be doing it for pay, but they're doing it for a reason. And the volunteers, most of you have done volunteer work or worked in those organizations, probably know this, right? That they do so because they do want to help, sometimes because they also hope that that puts them in good karma when they need help, right? That they want to be able to gain some social reward, have some social connection to get out of it, and also some role identity. It fits who they are as an individual. The other thing, along with looking at the volunteers and looking at the structure of the organization, is seeing how they work together and how the organization could function with more sustainability. Because as we started this process in October, the season really starts the end of October. As we started in October, we didn't know in our first discussion how HEAT was going to raise money. And even more concerning, HEAT didn't know how it was going to raise money for the next year. That's how unstructured of a successful organization is. So what Gaya is going to talk with you about, and then ultimately on hand, is in our project what we did to understand this organization and to impact some of the issues that we saw.
Thank you, Maureen. As Maureen just mentioned, many nonprofit organizations have or face founder syndrome, whereas if the founding leader leaves the organization can face leadership void and potentially collapse. And this is what he can potentially face. Maureen mentioned about the founder who founded the organization 3 years ago, and he could potentially leave and the organization can face a crisis. We also wanted to find out why the current members volunteers with the organization, why these volunteers devote their valuable time and efforts in benefiting the members in their community. With that purpose, the three of us developed a questionnaire and we emailed those to members of HEAT. Since Maureen is a member of HEAT, Rocanne and I collected the answers and we tabulated those prior to sharing with Maureen. After a few days after collecting those answers, all three of us, we went to Old Saybrook, with Maureen lived in Old Saybrook, so Rocanne and I joined Maureen in Old Saybrook, and we met actually with some members of HEAT to discuss what challenges HEAT faces, how they see themselves in the future, and why, most importantly, these members volunteer to devote their time in the community. What was interesting is that during that meeting, many members of HEAT shared the same concerns that we had, that this organization could potentially face crisis in the founder departs. And also the volunteers emphasize that they do devote their time with this group simply because they want to help those in need in their community. Helping others, serving their community is an important factor behind their work. The members of HEAT also admitted, or we discussed, that the organization lacks a formal structure. It lacks operational procedures guiding the organization. It seems like from year to year, the organization people get together, they talk, okay, let's do this, let's do this. The founder makes some phone calls, they use connections in town to raise funds, but other than that, the organization doesn't have any procedures in place. The members also shared that they would like to see more volunteers joining the group, especially high school students from high school, I would say. The members of HEAT also shared that they would like to see more exposure of HEAT in the community through online sources, mailing of brochures, and distribution of some sort of handouts. After the analysis of the questionnaire and meeting with members of HEAT, we determined that the organization could indeed collapse without its leader and is in dire need of more structure, organization, and most importantly, volunteers. Based on that, as part of our recommendations, which is also supported by Claire, is that in order for it to become an organization that can sustain itself going forward without its current leader, it should establish a core team comprised of volunteers who will exercise shared leadership, bring the organization through tough times, and make fast decisions during a crisis. We also recommend, as supported by Marpio, Hartley, Goodlev, and Kaplan and Norton, that this core team develops a mission statement, working credit, strategic plan, and standard operating procedures that will lead the organization through tough times, and develop some sort of purpose for volunteers to volunteer with the organization. Based on the results of the questionnaire, the conversations we had with HEAT, as well as the research that we have done, we recommend that HEAT attracts more volunteers by simply asking people they know to volunteer, by identifying potential volunteers by securing names and contact information of individuals attending fundraising events held by HEAT, and also by asking high school students and their parents to assist with or attend fundraising events. In order to attract new volunteers, as well as to retain already existing volunteers, Dr. Wilson, Degli Antoni, and Asman Ndamba, our favorite people, Maureen, recommend utilization of skills and competencies of volunteers by assigning them certain roles and responsibilities, engaging them in the decision-making process, and providing with the volunteers with lists of tasks and responsibilities that they may be asked to perform, so that volunteers are aware in advance about the demand on their time and money. They will limit the chance that they may not be available in time of need, and most importantly, determine what internal and external factors motivate their desire to volunteer with HEAT. I would like to jump back for a moment to our meeting with HEAT. During that meeting, we didn't only discuss the results of our questionnaire and the challenges faced by HEAT, but we also talked some fundraising. On which note, I would like to introduce our next host, Roger. Take it away.
Thank you. We did. We went and we met with the members of HEAT, and we started to talk to them about fundraising and marketing opportunities that they maybe were not privy to. So the question is, what is fundraising to a nonprofit organization? I believe it is their lifeline to all that is possible for an organization to accomplish. In 2009, an issue of Journal of Nonprofit and Public Sector Marketing authors Pope Easley Asamu Tutu tell us, and I quote, "The number of nonprofit organizations has grown tremendously in the past 3 decades, which has created more competition for the limited number of funds available to these organizations from donors, the government, corporations, and foundations. Therefore, fundraising and marketing are essential in the nonprofit world." So as our team began to research the HEAT organization, we found there were a few untapped areas that were not being addressed. As Gaya mentioned, we met with the team and several members. At the meeting, we made a couple of significant marketing and fundraising recommendations to them. Currently, within the last couple of years, they have done some type of fundraising, which has been very lucrative for them. There's been a comedy night and there's been a spaghetti night. But there is more that can be done. And so the 3 that we recommended first and foremost is to create a logo. We unveiled 2 examples of a logo to the organization. These logos will validate HEAT, identify within the community, and make the organization immediately recognizable. This will also begin to process brand awareness for the organization. Our second recommendation was to create a website. Gaya explained to you a little bit about volunteers and high school students maybe volunteering a little bit more. So our recommendation to them was to perhaps tap the high school student to work with them to create this website for them so the cost is not astronomical to them. And our third and final, or one of our most biggest and proudest recommendation that we made to them was to create a sustainable fundraising event. Our recommendation for HEAT was to ask the community members who will be hosting holiday parties, ask their guests in lieu of a host gift if they would donate to the HEAT organization. We unveiled a 3x5 card that explained what the HEAT organization is and how they can hold a HEAT up the holiday party that would benefit the Old Saybrook HEAT organization. So what I want to do at this time is I want to just show you what the, yeah, we can pass those around, show you what the card looks like. These cards would make their debut at the annual Old Saybrook Stroll. The Stroll is a community event that is held on Main Street in Old Saybrook each year. It involves local merchants and organizations to market themselves to the community. HEAT has a table at this event each year, so we thought this would be the best time to introduce this fundraising concept. It was a pleasure it's a pleasure to say that Maureen, Gaya, and myself actually did work the stroll. And those cards that you have in front of you right now, we actually did give out at the stroll. We also took the stroll as another fundraising opportunity for HEAT. And what we did was we had a couple of silent auction items. We had a couple of baskets that we auctioned off, and we also had some Mossberg t-shirts that we auctioned off, as well as we accepted any monetary donations that were given that night. And I'm happy to say that we did raise some money that night for the organization. These 3, there was some other things that happened that night that I want to kind of touch base on too. The night of the stroll, there were 3 significant things that happened. Maureen was actually able to connect with the high school principal that night. He was actually at the event, and she talked to him briefly about the idea of having the high school student design and help design the website for HEAT. So that was definitely a positive that came out. An area business talked to, I think it was Maureen, that to donate a percentage of their sales back to the HEAT organization. And last but not least, and I am so proud to say that this was mine, I had the distinct pleasure of meeting a community member that actually used the heating assistance of HEAT. And I got to talk to her for a few minutes, and we call her a stakeholder, right? So she was, she actually had came by, and I was handing her a card, and she kind of politely handed the card back to me, and she said to me, I actually used HEAT this winter. And I said, well, that's awesome. That is what HEAT is here for. We totally, that's great. So she pointed to her door, and she said to me, if it wasn't for HEAT, it would have been cold this winter. And to me, getting involved in this whole organization 8 weeks ago, or at that time I think it was 6 weeks ago, or 5 weeks prior, it was all horror right now. To me, that was the defining moment for myself, for doing all of the work that we did, for all the research that we did. So I was very happy and very heartfelt that I actually got a chance to talk to her. And one of the last things that she said to me was that at this time I wouldn't be able to make a donation to HEAT, but when I do, and when I do have the opportunity to, that would be the #1 organization that I would go back to because they helped me. So Maureen asked all of you at the beginning of our presentation to go and have some food, right? And the food was good? Yes. All right, so that was my sister that did it. And the reason why we did that is because you experienced the first ever Heat Up the Holiday party. So we hope that you enjoyed it. And we hope that you all have a warm and happy holiday season.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I wanted to, at this time, ask Maureen and Gaya if they wanted to add anything else in that we maybe forgot or...
Sure, but she just wanted to put the camera down. So the only thing I would want to add would be that when you think about need, and when you think of people who are in need, stretch your heads, right? I mean, yeah, stretch your heart, stretch your pockets, but stretch your heads and find need and see need where it really is. You know, a lot of times we see it through the prism of what we're taught, and that's important. But if you can sort of think of all the experiences you've had in life or where you've seen somebody, think of servant leadership, think of some of the stuff that we read in there, when you've seen people who maybe haven't had a voice, haven't had empowerment, to find some small path. What I love about this fundraiser idea, which is going to get huge and giant, right? So
We're going to go along the shoreline.
oh my gosh, it's going to be crazy. But you know, I mean, we have visions for the future. This started way big, folks, way big. You know, I think one of the things that Howard did the most in this class was bring the funnel down. bring the funnel down, Trina, bring it down.
We'll finish this year, not next year.
That's right. But in the future, we will have, like, you know, limited edition, heat up the holiday kits that can be bought at Virgin. We're going to go crazy with it, right?
I think we're going to heat up the birthdays, heat up the anniversaries.
Heat up the anniversaries, heat up everything. But what I love most about it, what I love most about it, see, you see how people would start opening their pockets right now? You get this, folks? You get it? What I love most about it is at the end of the season, our goal is to print in the Harbor News, who gives us that space, a thank you to every person who hosted a party. Their names will sit equal. So whether you had a party where you basically had, your party is the Super Bowl, right? And you had everybody at your Super Bowl party throw $5 into a bowl, and you ended up raising $45. Or you had to heat up the holiday party down in North Cove, and if you know Old Saybrook, North Cove is a place that I will not be going to a party at, but you know, and you're able to send in a donation for $5,000, your names will sit equal.
So can we make donations tonight? Where's the?
Absolutely.
Is this the first party? Shouldn't you be collecting money?
So we were told in our heads it would be in Port Taste, but since the school itself invited the idea, we were given a lovely sack that could be used for fundraising efforts today. But the truth be told, that everybody has need, affluent or not, need comes around. It may not always be money need, but need comes around. Everybody can give on all different levels. So I love the fact that they're built. I love that it can be equal. That's fine.
I actually would like to add something else, that when we initially discussed about heat up the holidays or heat up any event to do as fundraising, I was very skeptical about it. I'm like, and Maureen and I talked about it, and I'm like, Maureen, parties are supposed to be about fun, food, and conversations. What do you mean fundraising? But through this experience, I realized that anybody can do fundraising. If you're going to be hosting a party, any kind of party, birthday party, do fundraising. Ask people to donate in your honor to the organization of your choice. You can host lady parties for pay. You're going to have a Christmas party, instead of having people bring wine or food, ask them to donate.
Hey, we should have copyrighted it. You were so right.
On that note, I just wanted to thank you all for coming and enjoy the rest of the evening. We're open to questions, unless Rocky would like to add something
No, I
else.
just wanted to thank everyone for coming, and this was amazing. This was a great project to work on, and Maureen did say before, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit, I was asked to become an Old Saybrook community member. And I was so proud of that. So,
Did I go out?
well, yes, they were going to. I actually told Matt, if he rented the house for me, I would go live there.
Heat up the business line.
Okay, so as Dave started, the stroll was your first fundraiser, right? So has
He
Turn it to you, Trina.
has he received any fundraising yet from that stroll?
Well, we did actually raise in that night, $232, right? We don't anticipate any checks yet from holiday parties. I mean, the idea just went out last week, you know, so we'll see how that goes. We would expect that it would take time over the holidays for that to happen. One of the authors that we read said that when it comes to fundraising, when it comes to nonprofits and grassroots, it can be equally, if not more important, to measure how many people were asked than it can how much money